The Brooklyn Nets are looking at a bright NBA future after signing superstars Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in the 2019 free agency, who are also accompanied by the likes of Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and much more depth throughout the roster. With all this talent, there is plenty of questions to be asked regarding the team about the new coaching style that works with the team, considering Durant has not played at all with them this season, and the team firing head coach Kenny Atkinson. It is also apparent that they've also brought in one of the most interesting personalities in the league in Kyrie Irving. He showcased this when leaving out players when talking about what the team needs in an interview. Like, Kyrie, come on, you gotta stop this. The talent on the Nets is there, and there are plenty of options and opportunities moving forward. Hey everyone, DC NBA Junkie here, and without further ado, I'm here to discuss the future of the Brooklyn Nets moving forward. When talking about the Brooklyn Nets, you definitely need to mention the Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant duo. They wanted to come together ever since some point last season. I would believe it's sometime after All-Star break. I think that's when it started to really come together. That's when we at least got reports that Kyrie and KD were talking, and there was definitely something going on there, and eventually they would come team up in Brooklyn, but they didn't know where they would team up. But Brooklyn had the cap space, assuming that they would, when they did the sign and trade with D'Angelo Russell, sending him to the Warriors, and the Warriors would send Durant to the Nets. Now, as for Kevin Durant, picking him up, he's arguably the greatest scorer of all time. Maybe not there yet. I mean, it's an argument. He's 6'10", but honestly, he's probably a 7-footer. It's what he's listed. In his career, he's averaged 27.0 points per game, 7 rebounds, and in the 2018-19 season, the year he played before, the last season, he averaged 26 points per game, 1 block, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and overall, his frame just allows him to score in and out, and he can even defend the 1 through 5 as well. It's just such an impressive thing he is. He's skinny and not the biggest guy, but he's so lanky, and it just allows him to do so much on the floor. And he knows how to use his body really well. He's a 4-time scoring champ, 9-time All-NBA, 10-time All-Star, 2 titles, 2 Finals MVPs, and 1 regular season MVP. As for the Brooklyn Nets, I feel like this is a great pickup for any team that could have gotten him, but the Brooklyn Nets were privileged and able to get both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They got one of the best scorers of all time. However, he did rupture the biggest. This is a high risk. I mean, it's a risk-reward situation where he ruptured his Achilles in Game 5 of the 2019 NBA Finals, and now he's been recovering. So this next season, when he is assumed to play, his injury and how he recovers from it is going to be a big impact on the team, because I feel like it's going to hit him the worst athletically and in some parts defensively. Now, as for Kyrie Irving and picking him up for the Brooklyn Nets, this is also one of the better selections. I mean, one of the best selections you can get in free agency. They really got a home run on free agency with these 2 signings, because talent-wise, Kyrie Irving is easily one of the league's best ball handlers, shot creators. I mean, for heaven's sakes, that man really fell on his leg, fell down, picked up the ball, spun, and almost hit the game winner on Minnesota. That was just impressive, almost. And one of the best clutch performers as well. He's averaged this, and throughout his career, 22.4 points per game, 6 assists, and 1 steal. But this year, only playing 20 games, you got to keep that in mind. He did technically get career highs in a lot of statistics, averaging 27.4 points per game, and his career offensive rating is at 114, which is really impressive for a guy. I mean, he's one of the best offensive players in the league, so that's come to expect. He's a 6-time All-Star, a 1-time NBA champ in 2016 with the Cavaliers, and his true shooting percentage is a 57.2, so that's pretty solid. And in the playoffs, he's actually known to be doing a lot better, career-wise, to his playoff averages of 23.5 points per game and 5 assists. So for Kyrie Irving, he started really well off in his career, having some rough years at first in Cleveland, but then when LeBron came, he was able to collect his first title at 23 years old. But ever since, he's kind of had those issues of trying to become a leader on the team, and that resulted in him having a rough time in Boston. I mean, that just baffled me. But now he has a new chance in Brooklyn. With it being a second option again, we've seen it work in Cleveland. He was a second option, and it worked to the point where they were NBA champions. And I argue that he got the better scorer, obviously, but maybe not the better player. But he has a more well-rounded roster. I mean, with the Cleveland, you have Tristan Thompson, you had Kevin Love, you had LeBron. But other than that, in terms of like quality, you had J.R. Smith. But other than quality players, I wouldn't say they had many. This team, they have a ton of assets, although... Yeah, anyways, they had Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Garrett Temple, Nicholas Claxton. They have a plentiful, Spencer Dinwiddie, a lot of good players. However, when we talk about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant collectively, like I said before, Kyrie worked better as a second option on the team. In Cleveland, he was the second option when playing under LeBron, and it worked to perfection. When he goes to Boston, didn't exactly work when he wanted to be the number one option. I do think at the time it's one of the weirder trades, because we look back on the trade with Cleveland and the Celtics for Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving, and at the first year in, we see Isaiah Thomas hit a big decline because he was off an injury, and we see the Boston's winning the trade, and then Boston never did anything with Kyrie Irving, and then he actually just ends up leaving. So it's a weird situation there. But I think both of their scorings will be able to take care of the Nets offensively, as long as they have some players who are either serviceable on the offensive end. But I know that Dinwiddie can do it. So, and you got Karis LeVert, Joe Harris as well. You got plenty good offensive players. Oh, and you got DeAndre Jordan as well for a big man. And assuming both are healthy, and Kyrie can accept his role, I think the Brooklyn Nets, as long as Kevin Durant looks pretty good, I think they're really going to enjoy what they get. But I just hope they don't create that Celtics environment, because come on, Kyrie Irving, how do you? I just don't understand how your team in the 2018 playoffs is one game away from the finals. You don't have Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward. Then the next season you bring them in, and you are one of the more puzzling teams in the league and have a terrible playoff run. That just, yeah, I hope Brooklyn doesn't have to run into that. Another thing that's been very interesting upon the Brooklyn Nets organization as of lately is trading for a third star. As a team, the Nets have an 18th in the league in points per game, 24th in field goals made, they're second in rebounding, 9th in three-pointers made, 21st in blocks, and they had a minus 0.6 plus or minus. They're average both offensively, and I would say they're kind of subpar defensively. However, I mean, you have to think about the players on their team. They had Irving, who's not a good defender whatsoever. Dinwiddie, who can kind of hold it down, but he's not very well known for his defense. Karis LeVert's pretty subpar defensively, so they have a lot of guys that's from the backcourt that contribute to a weak defensive team. I think they have some good shot blockers and some good rebounders in DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen. But although the team has some holes, another thing you have to think about is you have to consider they didn't have their probably a top 5, top 3 scorer in the league in Kevin Durant. You didn't have KD. So if you are concerned about your team and how it's ranking against the rest of the league, maybe think about how you didn't have your superstar, your top 5 NBA player in the league. So in terms of talking about a third star, they have nice assets and they already have 2 stars. So personally, I would wait until KD returns, then reassess, your team and think about if you want to make a potential move for a third star. However, I do think also that right now teams might be willing to sell not now, but after the season ends, teams will be willing to sell their players. It's such a weird time, and maybe they're not really wanting to hold on to contracts, especially the Washington Wizards, because they're not really going to be able to get rid of John Wall, and Bradley Beal's been having trouble. So trading assets will lose some depth, but they can afford it. So at the same time, I look at it and say, you need to wait till Kevin Durant comes back before you say anything, but it doesn't also hurt to have that, especially since we know the potential options are like Bradley Beal. They've been talking to the Wizards a lot in trade discussions. Joel Embiid has been an option from the Sixers, because they've been having trouble over there, and CJ McCollum. And I think those are all good offensive players, Joel Embiid being the best clearly, but players they would definitely have to give up in deals. I think Karis LeVert is a guarantee, maybe even Dinwiddie at this point, but Karis LeVert is a guarantee because of his large contract, so it can match with these other large contracts. I'd say Jarrett Allen might be a guarantee because he's young and teams are going to want him, and maybe Dinwiddie. If for Joel Embiid, I'd see Dinwiddie being a lock. But anyways, if they can maintain assets and make a trade, I'd say it wouldn't hurt, especially since you don't know what you're going to be getting out of Kevin Durant yet. That's the biggest thing. You don't know if you're going to get a guy who is the exact same player, and it helps to have that extra scoring, but you might sacrifice some depth in trading for a third star, or Kevin Durant doesn't come back as quality as he used to be, and you're getting a third star who can kind of pick up a little bit of the slack that Kevin Durant kind of lost from his injury. And this last section just kind of draws off of everything I've been talking about the Nets team, and it's Durant's health and his recovery. And I think I touched on this, but how well he recovers is going to be the determining factor for the Brooklyn Nets becoming a contender. And it's why a third star might be beneficial, because like I said, the things I think Kevin Durant are going to most likely get weaker in, if he does, considering it's an Achilles injury, and he actually sustained the injury after hurting it in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So he'll likely get weaker agility-wise, in my opinion, athletically in general, and then and that will happen through like lateral quickness and his first step. I think just those things that involve his foot speed to be very on point. I think those are things that he might lose a little bit of his quickness. He's been really well known for not only being a good scorer, but a guy who can off the catch and in a triple threat position can get it right around a guy, can beat a guy off a first step, can rise to the rim. He's just been known for all these really good things, being good athletically, and so I think those are things I think he could be most likely weakened at. Not scoring wise, I know he's a good shooter. You don't lose shooting from leg injury, but another star player or a quality role player, or just a quality player like C.J. McCollum would allow the Nets to move forward if Durant doesn't return the same, and those players could maybe fill in offensively where Kevin Durant may lack, or defensively where he lacks. Overall, for the Brooklyn Nets, they have the players and they also have the assets to move forward next season with the full roster, or it's why they have so many options, or they could trade for a star to complete the big three. But like I said, I just think if the team is willing to trade with you, I wouldn't say it hurts, especially if you're not giving up a lot. I'd say if you're giving up Dinwiddie, then you're really making a commitment, because Dinwiddie is 25 and you're getting a lot better of a player than what he's worth right now. So you're definitely getting a quality player. I just think they have the potential to become title contenders, but it's going to come down to both their improvement as a squad, moving forward, their chemistry, because you got to still think there's Kyrie Irving. There's a lot of complete egos on this team, chemistry-wise, and then evaluating how much Durant they're gonna get back, because that's what was the biggest part of signing him, is that they're signing a superstar, but at the same time you don't know what you're getting back. I'm not saying you're gonna get the complete Durant, and I'm not saying you're not gonna get the complete Durant. You might get it, or you might not. There's just we don't know yet. It just ultimately depends on. We're only gonna see it when he comes back. So at this point, those are the things that I feel like the Brooklyn Nets are going to have to focus on moving forward. And if they think a third star is going to do it for them, they can. Especially since I think Karis LeVert definitely got paid a lot of money. He's a good player, but he hasn't really shown me completely he's worth $17 million. So they have to figure that out. And for the head coaching, getting rid of Kenny Atkinson, I do think they're going to, if they think the retaining their interim head coach they have right now is okay, then you keep him. But if you want to go grab a head coach who's still looking for a job, or assistant coach who you think could really help this team, I think they should do that. They're a team that looks to me they're going to be very offensively gifted, and they keep like either Jarrett Allen or DeAndre Jordan. They're going to have some good interior presence, so they're definitely going to have to figure themselves out there. But otherwise, I think the Brooklyn Nets have a very good opportunity to be a really good team. It just depends on those things I'm talking about, especially with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. But yeah, that'll be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'm out.